Alright, today we're going to go over 7-6 polynomials. Please make sure that you have 7-6 written at the top of your notes. We're going to write polynomials in standard form, then we're going to classify polynomials, and then we're going to evaluate polynomial expressions. Alright, first of all, we're going to talk about some polynomials. The first one is a monomial. A monomial is a number, a variable, or a product of numbers and variables with whole number exponents. So basically it could be a number, it can be a variable, or it can be a number and a variable or variables multiplied together. So on the left hand side over here you can see these are examples of monomials. The number 5, it's a number, so it's a monomial. X is a monomial because it's a variable. Negative 7xy is a monomial because it's a number and two variables all being multiplied together. 0.5, even though it's a decimal, doesn't matter, it's still a number. And then x to the fourth would just be 4 x's, so that's a number and a variable multiplied together. So that is a monomial. Over here, these are not monomials. This one is not a monomial because if I use my exponent properties, that x to the negative 2 is going to get flipped to the bottom so that the 2 will become positive. So that would no longer be multiplication, that would be division. Over here, 4x minus y is not a monomial because the 4x is because it's subtraction and not multiplication. And then 2 over x to the third, again, is division and not multiplication. So for it to be a monomial, it has to be a number, a letter, or a number and a letter multiplied together.
I want them to write that down. Okay.
You do not have to write this down. A polynomial is a monomial, or a sum or difference of monomials, meaning you're going to take a whole bunch of these little monomials and you're going to add them or subtract them together to make them a polynomial. The term of a polynomial may be written in any order. However, polynomials that contain only one variable are usually written in what we call standard form. Standard form of a polynomial is one variable or terms in descending order, meaning that the highest exponent is going to come first and it's going to go down to the lowest exponent. Go ahead and write down number 1 and we're going to put this into standard form. Be careful when you're putting this into standard form. We're not looking at the coefficients. We're not looking at these numbers out front. We're actually looking at the exponents. Like here we have x to the 5th, here we have x to the 2nd, and here this is x to the 1st if nothing's there. So that's how we're putting these in order. We're going to say we have a exponent of 1 here, 5, 2, and then no exponent here. So 5 would be the biggest exponent. So that's going to come first. And we're going to take whatever sign is in front of the number with it. So our first one's going to be negative 7x to the 5th. Then we're going to have 4x squared because the 2 is our next highest exponent. So we're going to say plus 4x squared. And then we have an exponent of 1 here if nothing's there. So we're going to say plus 6x to the first, or just 6x. And we're going to say plus because that 6x is positive. And then finally plus 9 because it doesn't have an x, so it does not have a exponent. Go ahead, take a minute, make sure you have that written down.
If you have not already done so, we forgot to tell you at the beginning, but go ahead and look at the top of your paper and write the lesson number, which is 7-6. So write lesson 7-6 across the top of your paper so you know what notes these are. Go ahead and write down number 2. Y squared plus y to the 6th minus 3y. Again, we're putting this in standard form, which just means that we're listing it from greatest to least by the powers or the exponents. So we're going to look at our biggest exponent here, and it's going to be the 6 and y to the 6th. So it has a positive sign in front of it. So that's positive. Y to the 6th, we don't have to carry that positive sign down because it's understood to be positive if there's nothing in front of it. Now we have y squared that's going to come next. We need to put a plus sign in front of it so we don't get confused and think we're multiplying here. Put a plus sign in front of your y squared when you bring it down because it is, again, understood to be positive. And then the last one is our 3y because it has an understood exponent of 1. So bring down your minus sign or your negative sign in front of your 3. y, and you don't have to write the exponent of 1 because it's understood. Go ahead and get that copied down before you move on.
All right, go ahead and write down number 3. It says 16 minus 4a to the 2nd power plus 5, or plus a to the 5th power plus 9a to the 3rd power. And again, be careful, make sure we're putting these in descending order by exponent. Take a minute and pause the video and try this one on your own. All right, hopefully you've had a minute to try this. Again, we're going in descending order by exponent. Notice we have only a's. So we're going to look at the exponents of a. A to the 5th is our highest exponent, and we're going highest to lowest. So a to the 5th goes first. And then a to the 3rd is the next highest exponent, so we put plus 9a to the 3rd. Then we have a to the 2nd, which is our next highest exponent, and it's got a minus sign in front, so we're going to say minus 4a squared, or to the 2nd power. And then we have the 16. The 16 doesn't have an a, so it's going to go on the end because there is no exponent of a here because there's no a. So we're going to say plus 16. So we have a to the 5th plus 9a to the 3rd minus 4a squared plus 16. Make sure you take a minute and make sure you have that written down correctly.
All right, admittedly, these are pretty easy. This is the last example that we're going to look at with just simply standard form, and then we're going to move on to the next objective for the lesson. Go ahead and write this one down. Number 4 is 18s to the 5th minus 3s to the 8th plus 14s. Again, take a minute and try to write this one down on your own in descending order by the powers or the exponents. All right, the first thing we're going to look at is our highest exponent, our biggest exponent, which is going to be our 8 on our s there. We have negative 3 s to the 8th, so we're going to bring that down and write negative 3 s to the 8th. The next one we're going to look at is our 18 s to the 5th. So we're going to say plus 18 s to the 5th. And then we have our s to the 1st, that understood exponent of 1 there being the least in our powers, and we're going to write that down plus 14s. So that's your final answer. Make sure that you have that down before we move on. All right, now you can write polynomials in standard form. The next thing we're going to look at is classifying polynomials. Some polynomials have special names based on the number of terms they have. We talked very briefly about monomials and polynomials in the first slide. Copy this table down. Copy down this table with the number of terms, 1, 2, 3, and 4 or more, and then the corresponding names, monomial, binomial, trinomial, and polynomial. Okay, you should have that table copied down now. We're going to move on and look and see. Do you want to talk about what the words mean, or you want to just move on and look at the examples?
I'll talk about what the words mean for a second. If there's one term, it's called a polynomial. If there are two terms, it's called
a monomial if there's one term.
Yes. One term is monomial, 2 terms is binomial, 3 terms is trinomial. And on the second and third one there, I like to think of, with 2 terms, binomial, kind of like bicycle. It has 2 wheels, so there's 2 terms there. And I like to think of trinomial as tricycle, meaning that it has 3 wheels or 3 terms. And the terms are going to be separated by adding and subtracting. Go ahead and write down number 5. Number 5 says 5n to the 3rd plus 4n. It says classify each polynomial according to the number of terms. Here, this one has 2 terms. It's got 5n to the 3rd, which is a term, and then plus 4n, which is another term. So again, the terms are separated by adding and subtracting symbols. So here there's 2. So since there's 2 terms, we're going to call this one a binomial. So make sure you have the word binomial written with that one. And it really is that easy for this part of the lesson. All we're doing is looking to see how many terms it has and calling it by its appropriate name.
All right, look at number 6 here. Number 6, write this down. 4y to the 6th minus 5y to the 3rd plus 2y minus 9. You can see here that you have 4 different terms. Sorry, I got click happy there. 4 different terms that are being added or subtracted. Your exponents are not the same on any of your terms, so they cannot be combined. None of them are like terms. 4 separate terms, and we look over here at the chart that we copied down, and it says 4 or more. I call it a polynomial, so it is a polynomial. Get that down and the term for it.
All right, make sure you have number 7 written. It's just negative 2x. Negative 2x is just one term because there is no adding or subtracting going on here between the 2 and the x, so it is just one term, and if it's only one term, it is called a monomial. So make sure you have monomial written down for number 7.
All right, looking at number 8, you have x to the third plus x squared minus x plus 2. Take just a minute and see if you can figure out which one this one's going to be, how many terms we have here. All right, hopefully you tried this one on your own and you came to the same conclusion that we're going to come to. We have 4 different terms here. You have x to the third, x squared, x, and 2, none of which are like terms, cannot be combined. They're all being added or subtracted, so we call this a polynomial. Make sure you get the word down as well as the problem.
All right, number 9, go ahead and write down 6, and then go ahead and try this one on your own as well. See if you can figure out whether it's a monomial, binomial, trinomial, or polynomial. Okay, this one's pretty simple. Hopefully you came up with the fact that there's only one term because there's only one number here. So that is a monomial.
All right, number 10, you have negative 3y to the 8th plus 18y to the 5th plus 14y. Copy that down and again, see if you can figure out which one it is. You have 3 different terms being added or subtracted. So that tells us that it is, in fact, a trinomial. And again, think about the word tri, like tricycle. It has 3 wheels, 3 terms. That's a really easy way to remember this. And like we said, it really is that simple. That's the last of those examples. Make sure you have those down with the words before we move on. All right, so now you can classify polynomials as well as write polynomials in standard form.
All right, we're going to look at number 11, and we're actually going to ace number 11. Please make sure that you get the actual ace written down because we're going to actually ask you to ace one in class tomorrow. So number 11 says a tourist accidentally drops her lip balm off the Golden Gate Bridge. The bridge is 220 feet from the water of the bay.
Pause. You don't have to write down all of this. Text will tell you exactly what you need to write down in just a minute, so just follow along as we're reading it.
The height of the lip balm is given by the polynomial h equals negative 16 t squared plus 220, where t is the time in seconds and h is our height. Determine how far above the water the lip balm will be after 3 seconds. So you need to make sure and have, well, you actually don't have to write it down. You're going to put that, what's important, into your cite box. So first thing we're going to do, though, is look at the answer. It says, answer the question in a complete sentence. Our question is determine how far above the water the lip balm will be after 3 seconds. So we're going to take this and turn it into a complete sentence answer.
And we're going to say the lip balm will be blank above the water after 3 seconds. So we don't know that answer, but we can restate the question in a complete sentence and just leave a blank for when we actually do get the answer in a few minutes.
All right, the cite is where we're going to take all of our important information and write it down. So we're going to cite the text and what's important. The fact that the bridge is 220 feet high is important, so we're going to write that into our cite box. We're going to write down our equation, which is h equals negative 16t squared plus 220. That's important, so that's also going to go into our cite box. The fact that t is time in seconds is important, so we're going to write that in the cite box as well. And then h is the height in feet. So that's what you need to make sure that you have in your cite box. That's the important information from what we're given.
So you should have both the answer that's written here and the text that you're citing here before we move on.
right, now we're actually going to find the answer to this. So basically, instead of t, they're saying, what is the h whenever t is 3? So everywhere we see a t, we're going to put in 3 for 3 seconds. So we're going to say negative 16 times 3 to the second power plus 220. Make sure that you do your exponents first. So 3 squared is 9. Do not multiply and then square. Make sure you square and then multiply. So then we're going to say negative 16 times 9 is negative 144, plus 220 is 76.
Make sure that you have that work down.
In the explain part, we're going to actually write down in words what we did. So we're going to say that we substitute 3 into the expression for t and solve using order of operations. The height, or the answer is the height in feet. So beside the 76, you'll want to put feet, because again, that's important. Okay. And then we're going to use that 76 to actually go back and answer our question and our complete sentence. Make sure you have the cite and the explain written in your notes before you move on. All right, so again, go back to your answer box and go ahead and make sure you put in 76 feet. And again, make sure that you have the word feet there, because that is important. And we always need to make sure and put our units of measurement.
All right, that's the last one that we're going to look at today. Do we want them to do that before you go? No? Okay. All right, make sure that you bring your notes to class with you tomorrow. We're going to look at another problem almost exactly like this one, and we're going to have you ace it, so you're going to need these notes. Thank you for watching.